Happy New Year, NFL football fans. We are back. We had our preview. I am your host, Wayne Cavadi, and this is our first full-fledged episode for the Three and Out Fantasy Football Podcast. As always, I'm lucky to be joined by the two greatest co-hosts in fantasy football history, with his New York Giants flag waving proudly, Fanduel Fee. Chris Fiumano, how are you? Welcome back.
I'm great, thanks. Happy to be here. I can't wait to talk week one fantasy football. It's gonna be
I know,
exciting.
right? We've been talking about the season, and now we get to actually do some starts and sits, and you get to talk some stacks and stuff. So I'm excited. Joining us from North Carolina on the back deck, as always, is the one and only Mr. Dunton. Mike Dunton, how are you?
We're doing great. Football Eve, right? Football Eve? Is that what you call it? Football Eve?
Yeah, Fantasy Football Eve. And within the last 36 hours, Travis Kelce has ruined half of everybody's first-round draft picks. So
he has
a great start. Obviously, we're going to get to the Travis Kelce issue in a little bit. First, I do want to give a shout-out to a stalwart, if you would, in fantasy football. He was solid for a long time at a position that absolutely sucks. So happy trails, Kyle Rudolph. Enjoy your retirement. You will definitely go into our Fantasy Football Hall of Fame. You deserve it, because if you make 5 good years as a tight end, I think that you accomplished something in fantasy football, and Rudolph did that. So we're just going to jump right into the show. I'm excited to get started with our first full-fledged episode, and that means that get it started, we're going to buy it or bullshit. All right, first question. And we discussed this last week when we had Jeff on the show, that he had Bijan Robinson ranked number 1. I would assume with fantasy football starting tomorrow, everyone's drafts are done, and everyone would know that he went within the first 5 to 7 picks of every draft. Fee, buy it or BS? Bijan Robinson lives up to the hype right out of the gate.
I'm buying it. I think, well, first of all, they're playing against a Carolina team week one that's very middle of the pack defensively, or at least they were last year. I expect them to be right around the same this year. And they don't really have a good offense, to speak of. So I would suspect that Atlanta tries to keep the ball on the ground, tries to keep possession, and basically do what everyone thinks that they're going to do, which is feed the ball to Bijan over and over again. And I would suspect that he has a fantastic game this week.
Dutton, I like what your question is. You answering my question with your question on our notes I see here. So go ahead.
Yeah, what's a great start week for him? What is a week 1 start where everyone's going to be like, yes, this is the pick I wanted with the first round. He's a rookie, first game in the NFL. So in my head, I'm thinking 100 total yards and a touchdown. That's 16 points, not counting receptions, right? So if you get 16 points from your running back in week 1, are you happy? I think you are. So yeah. I'm buying it.
Yeah.
I'm buying it. 100 total yards and a touchdown. I'm putting it in the books. I'm buying it.
Right. No, and you look at it, and something that Fee said to go back to, Thielen left the practice today hurt, and he's on the injury report. DJ Shark has a practice in a couple days. So you already mentioned, they're not a very strong offense, and 2 of the veterans that were supposed to be carrying this team left practice hurt, right? So yeah, it's going to be right. Bijan. It's going to be more Bijan, and after that, it's probably going to be a little bit more Bijan. And I think 16 points may be lowballing it, but I think you're right. I think that's what, if that happens, we're in good shape. I want to talk about this because Dunton, you and I talked about it on draft week, and for those that don't know, yes, Fee, Dunton, and myself have been in the same league for 27 years, and we had our draft this Sunday. Mine was the worst. I'm excited. But Dunton drafted Deebo Samuel, and I want to talk about this because this 49ers offense looked very different when Purdy took over. So, Dunton, we'll start with you. Buy it or BS? Deebo Samuel becomes an afterthought in 2023. Fantasy-wise, fantasy speaking.
No. BSing that. I don't think he's an afterthought. I think He is a plug and play type of guy. I think we have to see what happens. And I'm really banking on the fact that the 49ers are going to, I'm going to use the word pitch count Christian McCaffrey in the amount of snaps he gets. They're going to limit his exposure because that team is really good if he plays a lot, right? So I think Debo Samuel can be used to spell Christian McCaffrey, which sounds weird, but I think they can use him out of the backfield, some screen passes, things like that. So I still think he's useful fantasy-wise.
Fee.
Yeah, I'm BSing it as well. I don't think that he's going to become an afterthought. I think they're going to use him how they have been using him, which is exactly what Dutton said is, screen passes, short, slants, and try to get him the ball when they're not getting the ball to McCaffrey. The problem is that type of usage isn't really great for fantasy. I still think he'll be good for the Niners and he'll be decent for fantasy. I just don't think he'll be great.
Right. And okay, so first of all, I apologize. I forgot to give you both 5 points for the first question. So you're tied. Dutton, I'm only giving you 2 here. Fee, I'm giving you 3. I don't think Debo is a focal point in this offense anymore. I think Elijah Mitchell is going to be the early down guy. I think you were right that they're going to pitch count McCaffrey. I 100% agree with you there. But I don't think Debo's it. I like the way Ayuk came on. Purdy loved Kittle. So now we're looking at Debo with McCaffrey the way that he catches balls as the 4th receiver. So I think he'll be good the way that Fee is saying that they're going to try to use him, kind of that running back style of play that he did 2 years ago that made him the breakout star. But I don't know if that translates to fantasy. And I just don't see him being a fantasy star this year. But we shall see. We shall see. I've been wrong. Like, what was it that one time? What did I don't remember. That one time I was wrong. So maybe this will be the second time that I'm wrong. Moving on. Fee, we're going to start with you. We got a couple rookie quarterbacks this year. Let's look at 2 of them. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are going to surprise people. Buy it or BS, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud become serviceable fantasy starters right in year 1. Fee.
Well, first of all, when you say that you were wrong that one time, you mean like once a week, right?
Oh, is that what it is?
I think that's what you meant.
The beauty of recording is we'll go back and look at all of the videotapes to find out.
But I'm going to BS Bryce Young and CJ Stroud being serviceable fantasy starters. They're very young, they're obviously, rookies, so they're very young. They're just getting started. I feel like they're the type of guys that need time to develop. And I just don't I think that they're going to need the entire year to do that. I don't know that they'll make a huge impact, but one rookie quarterback that could surprise you that you didn't mention is Anthony Richardson could surprise people just because of the amount and the way that he runs the ball. Not to mention, the offensive coordinator there in Indianapolis that, helped with Justin Hurts and the way that he ran the ball. And the Colts, quietly have a decent offense. So while Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, I'm going to BS, I think that Anthony Richardson has a good chance to surprise some people.
I think the Colts have a decent offense if Jonathan Taylor comes back in week 5 and plays like Jonathan Taylor. I know Richardson's a running quarterback, but I think he needs Jonathan Taylor back there and not a combination of Deion Jackson and Zach Moss to take the pressure off him. Dutton, we're going to you. What do you think?
I don't think either one of these guys, and it's not their fault. I think the offenses they're playing with are just too young and developing. They don't have an offensive line to really help them develop right now, where they're not going to have a lot of time to read different reads. They're going to be really like hot routes, I think. I don't think they're going to be able to go through progressions at all. It's not their fault. Like, I think this is a building year for both teams. So yeah, you might want to look at them after Thanksgiving if things are going like, maybe I can use them because I got this guy and this guy are injured, and but I really don't think you're going to be looking at them too much this year.
Yeah. 4 points each. I think the key that you said, Dunton, I actually think the Texans have one of the more underrated offensive lines in football. I just don't know that he has anyone to throw the ball to, right? Robert Woods is the shell of the Robert Woods that we once knew. He's not Robert Woods. I love Tank Dell. I love Nico Collins. They're young. I don't know what they're going to be, and same, you flip over to the Panthers, their line, I don't think is as sneaky good as the Texans. And as we just said, the 2 veteran wide receivers they brought in haven't been on the field the last 2 days. So yeah, I'm with both you guys. I don't think so. I do think Richardson, because of that rushing, I think he's a good, a guy to watch. And I think he has more of a chance to be upside because of his rushing ability. And we'll see what happens when Jonathan Taylor gets out of there, but he's a little bit more mobile. Conversely, we're going to second-year quarterbacks. Okay. So Jordan Love and Sam Howell, Dutton, buy it or BS, are not going to be any impact in fantasy football this year.
I'm BSing that. Jordan Love, I think, is going to be this year's version of Geno Smith, where all of a sudden people are like, he's averaging like 24 points a week. He's not terrible. He's not flashy. Geno Smith was not flashy last year, right? But he was solid. He was consistent.
Right.
And I really think that's what Jordan Love is going to be this year. I think he's going to have some games where like, ugh. But I think at the end of the year, people are going to be like, you know what? Jordan Love wasn't as bad as people thought he was going to be. Sam Howell, on the other hand, I'm not sure about him. I'm a little worried about him. So that's where I am. So can I B and S it at the same time?
Fee, one of these guys is throwing to your man crush, who reported to practice today and looks like he might play in week 1. For our new listeners, that of course is the great Terry McLaurin, who Fee has shown great love for in our 4 years of this show. Sam Howell, Jordan Love, buy it or BS, they are not serviceable fantasy quarterbacks this year.
I am BSing that as well, because I think that both Jordan Love and Sam Howell can be serviceable fantasy starters in a pinch where you might need a guy, for a bye week, or if you have an injured quarterback, or if you're in a 2 quarterback, like a super flex 2 quarterback league. I think both of those guys would be outstanding kind of fill-ins. Sam Howell has rushing ability. And I think that he's going to be good this year because of the guys that he has around him on that offense. Now, I do love Terry McLaurin, and I have loved him in the past, but this turf toe situation has me scared with him, and I feel like that's something that lingers throughout the season. So
it's a bad injury to start a season with.
Yeah, that scares me, and it's unfortunate for him and that Commanders offense. But I still think that Howell could be decent, and even Jordan Love, like Dutton said, I completely agree with everything Dutton said. He's got weapons on that offense. Christian Watson quietly was a very good receiver last year. You still got Aaron Jones, you still got AJ Dillon.
That couldn't catch a football. That guy looked like MVS at the beginning of the year, and then all of a sudden he caught everything thrown his way.
Yeah, he couldn't drop a thing at the end of the year.
Yeah, they just picked up Luke Musgrave for their tight end now. So there's opportunity in both Washington and Green Bay.
And I think I'm giving 5 points to Fee, 4 points to Dunton. You brought up very good points, but I think Fee nails it with the weapons that are there. I think that where we were talking about CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, it's not so much them, it's what's around them. These guys have the tools in place to succeed. Especially, they have running games. They have good running games, both of them. They're not great. They're not like elite running games, but they both have some running backs. Now, I feel like I put this juju into the universe, so I apologize to all Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce owners, because I wrote this on Monday. And the final buy it or BS question really amped itself up to a buy it the other day. Is the Sky more hype for real? Dutton, Fee says to start with you. Is the Sky more hype for real? Buy it or BS?
You have to buy it.
Great,
right? You have to, right? You have to, especially going into week 1. Tomorrow night, there's a game. Tomorrow night at this time, they will be in like the first quarter, maybe the second quarter, right?
I still don't know if Kelsey's going to play.
Right. That's what I'm about to say.
He's not playing.
I don't think he's playing. I don't think he's playing.
Way.
Vegas doesn't think he's playing. The line moved the whole point today. It moved from 6.5 to 5.5. Yes, if Sky Moore is ever to break out, it's tomorrow night. And I think if he can break out tomorrow night with a big game being like 100 yards, a touchdown, like 8 receptions, maybe, I think that is momentum to carry him through for the rest of the season where Mahomes is like, you know what, in a pinch, I needed you and you were there for me. So, yes, this is Sky Moore's. If Sky Moore can't break out, then this is never going to break out. Right?
That's a fair assessment. Fake.
Yeah. So everything that Dutton said, but also like you said, this is his chance. This is his opportunity. Who else is Mahomes going to throw the ball to other than his running backs? Yes, there's their tight end. What's his name?
Noah Gray.
Gray.
Yeah.
Noah Gray. And everyone's kind of on him. Everywhere I've
Just
read.
because he's there. I don't think it is.
Right. I mean, there was a game or two where Kelsey didn't play and Noah Gray did well for himself previously. But we don't really know what that is.
Right.
And is Noah Gray really gonna like command 10 to 12 targets a game? I'm not entirely sure. They're gonna need to throw the ball to somebody. And Sky Moore, I feel like, is probably one of their better or best receivers that they have currently. With Kadarius Toney injured and Justin Ross injured and all the other problems and issues that Kansas City seems to have on offense. So I think this is Sky Moore's opportunity. And just like Dutton said, we're going to find out, whether or not
maybe Mahomes will just throw it to himself.
That I was just going to say, he has nobody. And that guy is still going to throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns tomorrow night. And I don't know who it's going to go to or how it's going to happen, but he's going to do it, right? That's what Mahomes does. 5 points for each of you. I think that means Fiumano wins by 1. Congratulations, Fee. You are week 1 winner of Buy It or BS. We're moving on to first down. Jameson Williams locks of the week. Here's where we pick our first picks of the year. We've been waiting for this moment. Last year, remember, we finished 74% correct. So if you rode with us, that's a big thing for any new listeners to our show. We're very accountable. We believe in accountability. We tell you, each week we revisit every mistake that we made and we make sure we do better. Last year we were 74% correct throughout the season. We're each going to pick one game and then we'll pick the 3 and out lock of the week. The one game that we think that we agree on is going to do that. So I never start. I'm going to start. I really like 2 games. I like 3 games this week. We love our Lions. Let's not deny the fact that we love our Lions. Now it opened at 6.5. Keep in mind, if you're listening to this was recorded on Wednesday night before the season. So these are Wednesday lines according to Caesars Sportsbook. That's where I looked at for these. So we love the Lions getting 5.5. I also like the Falcons giving 3.5, and I really like the Steelers getting 2.5. I don't know why. I just think that defense is good. I think Kenny Pickett takes a big step forward. The Niners are a tough draw for week 1 to do that. So I'm going to lock in my pick of the week as the Falcons minus 3.5. Fee.
All right. I am going to go with the Tennessee Titans. They are getting, or are they getting 3.5? I think they're getting 3.5 against New Orleans. And I just think that these two teams are very kind of even-ish. Yes, Derek Carr is in a new spot. And they have Jamal Williams, which actually I really like for DFS this week. But Tennessee still have horses. They still got Derrick Henry. You got DeAndre Hopkins. I think they keep the game at least close, and I think 3.5 is a perfect number to take the points here.
Dutton.
It's interesting because you said Caesars Sportsbook, so I was checking the lines, and I will tell you something about the one game we're all going to talk about in a minute. But a lot of the lines have changed. So I had picked the Bills at -2. The Bills are now -2.5. I'm still going to ride with the Bills. I think there is too much hype on the Jets. It's not to say the Jets are not going to be good this year, but it's an early game of the year.
What's the show?
What?
The show.
Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. Hard Knock hype, baby.
Yeah, well, not only that, their defensive players come out and said they're the greatest defense of all time yet, and they haven't even played a game. They haven't even played a game, and he's like, "We're gonna be the greatest defense of all time." So I think the Jets I think this is a humbling week, and then they move forward from there. So I'm taking the Bills this week.
All right. So, what were you going to say about Detroit? Did they shift that line again?
Yeah, it is now. Hold on, -4.5.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean,
Chiefs?
I imagine a lot of money's going to be coming in on Detroit, especially with all the news
Yeah.
of injuries
Right.
and Travis Kelce and everything else. They didn't move it far enough the first time to 5.5 from six and a
But look,
half.
here's what we talked about last week, right? With Kelsey healthy, we talked about the fact that Chris Jones isn't there. And we
Right.
talked about the fact that the Lions have a good running game to keep this game within a field goal. So if they're still getting 4.5 points, I'm good with locking in the Lions as our pick of the week, but I'll leave it up to you two. What do you guys
I
think?
don't mind it at all. I think,
Oh, I'm still on the Lions. I
Yeah.
mean,
lock it in.
yeah,
I will wear my Detroit Lions socks for longtime listener Teddy Ballgame, the only Lions fan I've known this guy for 20 years and he's still a Lions fan. He deserves this. He deserves an opening night win against the Super Bowl champs. So yeah, let's lock them in. We're going Lions so it's now 4.5 on Wednesday night. That line could probably move. I guarantee you the second they say Kelsey's
4.
officially, it's more, but we're locking it in at 4.5. Check
Right.
your lines tomorrow when you go to bed. So we're moving on to Fanduel Fees first. Daddy Max stacks of the week. How excited are you for this?
I am so excited. I can't wait for DFS. I know that people have been playing DFS in the preseason. I have not.
Right.
I just haven't had a whole lot of time to really dive into preseason very much. And I know that there's a lot of value in the preseason too. But you really kind of need to research, and I just didn't have the time to do that. So I'm excited for week one and to talk about this here.
Can I do a quick aside? I realized that when I had a problem when I was in Vegas 2 weeks ago, and I did just $5 6-team parlay on preseason football games, and I took the under in each one, and they all hit, that $5 turned into a lot of money. It was awesome, but I'm like, I
That's
can't
awesome.
believe I'm betting on preseason football. Anyway, B, let's talk about your first stack of the year. Let's fire it up.
All right. The first stack. All right, this is in no particular order, but I have a few. The first stack of the year, I really like the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith is at $7,200 salary. I think it's probably QB 8-ish. For the main slate. Again, this is the main slate only. There's no Thursday game, there's no Sunday night game, there's no Monday game. It's the 13 Sunday day games. So I really like Geno Smith, and I like pairing him with Tyler Lockett. He's at 6,800, and they're playing the Rams. Okay, the Rams kind of are dismantled, I want to say, on defense. You know, they still got Aaron Donald, but that's really it. Jalen Ramsey's hurt. Is he even on the Rams anymore?
No, he's on the Dolphins.
Yeah,
No, he's
yeah,
on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
right. So that doesn't even
He's
matter.
so hurt that he's on a different team.
But I feel like the Rams are just not going to be good. And Seattle, they're playing at home. These guys are cheap enough where you could really stack these guys and then load up the rest of your roster. And if you really wanted to, I'll come back with maybe Tyler Higbee. Stafford seems to like the tight end. Higbee's been good for him, and why not, right? If you're looking for a cheap tight end. Moving on, there's a few others that I actually really like. Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson are playing the Arizona Cardinals, and again, too cheap. These guys. Howell's at 7,100, right below Geno, and Dotson is at 6,100. So you're getting, a solid quarterback wide receiver duo, for only 13K. I don't know that I would bring back anybody in that game, but I don't know that you'd have to because it's so cheap that you could load up the rest of your roster again. So I wouldn't play any Cardinals for sure. And two other stacks. Anthony Richardson, depending on your how much you like him and think that what kind of game that he could possibly have, but they're playing Jacksonville. He's only 6,700, and the way that he rushes the ball could really give you a good amount of points going into that game and save you a lot of salary. And I don't mind pairing him with Michael Pittman at 6,600 and maybe even come back with Calvin Ridley on the other side for Jacksonville. If you really like Ridley, I actually really like Ridley this year. I think that he could do a lot. And then my last stack is Justin Herbert. You're going to pay up for him. He's 8,100. I think he's the fifth or sixth highest salaried quarterback on the slate. And pairing him with Gerald Everett at 5,500 for a tight end. You could absolutely throw in Mike Williams. I think he's around 7K or maybe a little higher than that, 72, 73. Or even Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen is over 8K, and now you're talking about 16K worth of salary just on two guys. But if you wanted to pair Herbert with Gerald Everett and come back with Tyreek Hill on the other side, I think that would be a fantastic game to do that. And I put it down here, but the over under totals in three of those four games are actually very good. The Charger game is at 51, which is the second highest total on the slate, and then you have both Washington and Indianapolis with over under totals at 45, which is fairly high for this week. So those are my four stacks of the week.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. You ready?
Oh boy.
I entered a large tournament with this team. I want to know what you think. Well, one of them, it starts off with one of your stacks. So I went with Herbert. Running backs, I have Bijan Robinson.
Love it. Love Bijan this week.
Jamal Williams. Because
love Jamal Williams this week.
He's my guy. I love Jamal after last year. So I was able to get Keenan Allen in there instead of Gerald Everett. So that's my stack right there. Then I'm taking a gamble with Addison. I want to see what the rookie could do. And then I got Ayuk in there because as I told you earlier, I think Debo is kind of the fourth target in that offense. Tight end is Dallas Goedert. You guys remember I love him from last year. Flex, because I have so much faith in the Falcons this week, I'm going with Drake London. And then defense, I'm going with the Eagles at the Patriots. Paid a little up for defense. I don't typically do that, but what do you think?
Well, it's interesting that you're going with two Falcons. You're going with a receiver and a running back.
I know.
I don't know how I feel about Drake London. What's his salary, Drake London?
62.
You could go with Jahan Dotson, who's 6,100, and he's playing Arizona, and McLaurin's hurt. And even if McLaurin plays, how much is he going to play? How effective is he going to be? Dotson's the man there, I think, for at least this week, and he's 6,100. Here, I want you to see something. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So that was my original lineup: Bijan and Jamal Williams, just like you said.
Nice. And just because I put my money where my mouth is, I roll with Fanduel Fee, and I just took Drake London out of my lineup, and I put Jahan Dotson in there. So, if I practice what I preach, if we're putting Fee out there for your advice, I'm taking it. And you want to know why? Because Fanduel Fee never takes his own advice, and every week we have to listen to how he didn't play his own picks and he lost money. So I'm going to listen to your picks.
It's a valid point. It's a valid point.
Oh God, I don't know why I do that, but.
So finally we get the show with third down because we go 3 and out here. And it's our first starts and sits of the year. Last year we did really well at these. And again, accountability. We'll review just like the locks of the week. Fee, Dunton, and myself will give you one of our ideas for start at each one of the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end position. We don't do IDP. We don't tell you about defense, and we don't tell you about kickers because, come on. You don't need to know about wide receivers and kickers. You drafted one.
You mean defenses and kickers, not wide receivers.
Defenses and kickers. I don't know where wide receivers came from. I'm excited. So we're just gonna get rolling, and and we'll pick our 3 and out lock of the week at each position of who we're gonna start. We're gonna get rolling. Dutton, you already talked about your start of the week earlier. Let you expand on it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna start Jordan Love this week. The Bears defense, they're not the monsters of the Midway. And I think there's a lot of expectations for the Packers not to be good. And I feel like it's Jordan Love's time where he's like, you know what? There's no pressure on me. Nobody expects me to be anything. Everyone's paying attention to Times Square Aaron right now, right? So I'm going with Jordan Love against the Bears.
Let me ask you this. because it's week 1 and Jordan Love there. Come on, there are question marks around him. It's fair to have those question marks.
Absolutely.
Who are you starting him over? Obviously,
Ooh, right.
Herbert.
Yeah, right.
Not
Yeah.
Burrow.
So who would I start Jordan Love over? I think I would start Jordan Love over Derek Carr if Derek Carr is one of your options in a deep league. I think I would start Jordan Love over.
Would you start him over Sam Howell?
Who do the Commanders play this week?
Arizona.
Oh, that's a tough one.
That
There's
is-
a matchup problem there.
that
There's a
is a
matchup
tough one.
there. So yeah. So I mean, he's right around there. You know, look, we got to reach, right? I mean,
No,
if I could
and
tell
I like
everybody,
that. I
hey,
like
you
that
know
we
what?
reached. I think all 3 of us reached, and we didn't take the guys.
Go start Josh Allen, everybody.
Right.
Oh, can we play that game? Yeah, I'm gonna start Jalen Hurts this week.
Yeah. Fee, you're
I'm
going
just
with
kidding.
one of our guys from last year, so why don't you talk about him?
Yeah, so I want to start. We talked about the Lions to open the show, and I want to start Jared Goff this week. If Kansas City, scores points, one way or another, Goff is going to have a great game, and I think that he will. They got weapons on offense. They were good last year. Goff was good last year. I think that they start off hot. At least I'm hoping they do. So I want to start Jared Goff this week.
Okay. And it's funny you mentioned him because I know he's Dutton's least favorite player in fantasy football, but I do think Derek Carr has a good start this week. And I think it's a little bit beyond, like, look, what Fee said earlier about the defenses, we're going based on last year's number. The 3 of us could have gone through the rosters and seen all the changes. We could have looked at the coaching changes and seen what new schemes, but we don't do that. Come on. You want to do that, you got to go to another show. We throw darts, okay? And we're going on last year's numbers. The Titans weren't very good against the pass, but I'm even going beyond that. I think Derek Carr has something to prove. I think he's got one, he got shunned by his own team. I think he's got one of the best wide receivers in football in Olave. And I think he just has a good week this week. Again, the question is who would I start him over? In most leagues, Derek Carr is a backup now. He's not a starter. So is he a good start week 1? Maybe not, because you're not really going to bench even, a lower end. You probably aren't going to bench. If you have Goff and Carr, I'm rolling with Goff. I'd agree with Fee there, but I do think Derek Carr has a good week this week. So he's my start of
Quick
the week.
question for you. Quick question. And then we can move on really quick. Super flex league. Right? There you go. Now you got these 3 guys. Obviously, Jared Goff is starting over the other 2, right? But the funny thing is both Derek Carr and Jordan Love are my backup quarterbacks on my team.
So you're asking which one I would roll with over Derek Carr or Jordan Love? I think I would go with
in a super flex league.
Yeah, I
Derek
think
Carr?
Jordan Love to see what he's got. Dutton, where you going? Hey, there you are.
Computer's getting attacked by cicadas.
So who do we want to lock in as our start of week? Do we want to go Goff week 1?
Yeah, let's go Goff.
All right, Goff it is. Moving on to running backs. Fee, we're going to start with you. Start of the week.
All right, my start is J.K. Dobbins, and they're playing the Texans. And again, we were talking about last year's statistics, but Houston wasn't all that great against the run. Then again, their defense really wasn't great at all. But I just think that Dobbins, like Derek Carr, has something to prove. He had that contract situation earlier in the preseason, and that they said he was injured, but it was really a contract situation. But I think that now he's back. And while the Ravens do want to give Lamar the ball more and have him throw a little bit more, they're still going to run the ball because they're still the Ravens. And Dobbins is their number 1 guy. So I'm rolling with Dobbins this week.
Dutton, I hate your pick. Go ahead.
I know you do, but the Browns are 27 against the run last year. I don't know what they are this year because we haven't had a game yet, but I'm going with Joe Mixon.
I want every one of our new listeners to know that there are 2 people I hate I fantasy sports hate in the NFL, and that is, boys, who's the first one?
The guy who doesn't make any catches in the finals for you.
No, not Corey Davis. He's retired.
Oh,
Josh Allen and
Josh Allen.
Josh
Okay, well, I
Allen.
didn't know. I mean,
and I
Elite.
don't like Joe Mixon this year
elite,
at
elite.
all. I want to, before I say my pick, I want to throw this out there. I think Jamal Williams is a must start in the first 3 weeks of the season without Kamara back there and uncertainty in his backup if it's Taysom
I
Hill.
agree.
Listed at quarterback. Once again, Taysom Hill should not be allowed to be listed at quarterback. He shouldn't. He's anyway. My pick for the week is Montgomery, and I would even say Gibbs. I would say Lions running back. But I think Montgomery, I think, like we said, in order for the Lions to win this game, they're going to have to run the ball down the throat. I think both Montgomery and Gibbs get a healthy dose. But I think with the veteran over the rookie in this first game in such a big matchup, I think it's Montgomery's turn to maybe get that touchdown and put him over the edge. Who do we want to lock in as our start of the week?
Can't have all Lions, so I go with Dobbins.
I'll do Dobbins. I have no faith in my own Texans. I'll start with wide receivers, and I think it's Drake London. I did switch him because I'm rolling with Fee, but I still think he's a great start in fantasy. I think the Falcons have a reliable backfield in Algier and even Patterson and obviously Bijan that they're going to establish that run and show that Ritter could throw the football. And if Ritter can throw the football, he's going to be looking Drake London's way a lot against a banged up Panthers team already. Dunton.
I'm going with Zay Flowers. Lamar Jackson's going to test his new toy, right? I mean, he's got a new toy to throw that ball to. He's got a lot of money behind that arm. I'm going with Zay Flowers against the Texans.
And Fee.
I talked about him earlier. I'm going with Tyler Lockett against the Rams.
Lock it in.
So I see. Do we have to go with Lockett so you can say lock it in?
We don't have to, but it is fun to say lock it in.
I'm good with Lockett. I love Lockett. I have no problem picking Lockett. I also see everyone's strategy is just pick whoever's playing my favorite team. So I appreciate that, gentlemen. I mean, it's not going to be like that all year.
No, it's not.
Moving on to tight end, Dutton, start with you.
Greg Dulcich of the Denver Broncos. I think Russell Wilson. Did you see that Sean Payton told Russell Wilson to stop kissing babies? He's not running for politics. Yeah, I think that means that Russell Wilson's going to find a tight end to throw the ball to, because does he have anybody else to throw the ball to in Denver? Everybody gets hurt on the wide receivers.
Yeah.
So Greg Dulcich this week.
All right, Fee.
All right. So I went with a guy that you're
Homer.
supposed to start anyway, but I had to because I just feel like Waller's going to have a ridiculous year
You're probably right about this.
As long as he stays healthy. And so I'm going with Darren Waller. If I had to take a guy that you're not, high on, or that that wasn't a top 5 tight end, I'd probably go with Gerald Everett this week on the Chargers.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to go with Higbee because the Seahawks couldn't stop a tight end last year, but Jamal Adams, I believe, is still out this week, and having him off the field, that's a big deal. I'm good with starting Waller because, unfortunately, Fee, I do think this guy's hurt within 2 weeks. So why don't we get him on before we can't say his
Get
name.
him in while we can.
But I'm good with any of these guys. I'll don't make me make the pick.
We're good with Waller. Lock it in.
All right. So the 3 and out starts of the week, the lock, the one that we locked in on is Jared Goff at quarterback, J.K. Dobbins at running back, Tyler Lockett at wide receiver, and Waller at tight end. Let's move on to the sits. Boo. And Dutton, we'll start with you at quarterback.
I mean, you're probably not playing him, but you're sitting Justin Fields this week because I don't think he's going to be very good. The Packers defense is good. As much as you want to say anything about the Packers offense, their defense is going to be really good this year, I have a feeling. So sit Justin Fields.
Hey.
I'm sitting Daniel Jones. The Dallas Cowboys defense is ridiculously good, and the Giants offense, I don't think that they've improved much from last year other than Waller. So I got to sit Daniel Jones this week.
Listeners, new listeners to the show, you will see a huge Giants flag behind Fiumano, and you will not hear one nice thing about the New York Giants out of his mouth ever. So I'm surprised he picked Waller. I'm going with Richardson, and all I'm going to say is I think everything Fee said earlier about Richardson is true, but I don't think it's in week 1. I think this is a learning curve, and I don't think this is the week you start him. I would sit Richardson or Jones. I'm just afraid to sit Fields because of those rushing yards. But I do agree.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing too, right? We should probably sit Jones because of these three, he'd be the most likely to be playing on somebody's team this week, right?
That's fair.
So if we're, yeah.
Running back, Fee.
All right. I am sitting Najee Harris against San Francisco's defense, who, again, a really good defense, especially against the run. Nick Bosa just got paid.
He did.
And Najee Harris, there's been talk about Jalen Warren, stealing some reps from him. And so whether or not that actually happens, I don't know. I feel like you need to sit him this week against San Francisco.
Fair enough. Dutton.
I'm sitting Alexander Madison against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Say what you want about the Buccaneers. They are really good against the run. I think the Vikings will be airing out the ball. So sit Alexander Madison.
I'm going Rashad Penny. I don't care. You'll see that I wrote, I don't care who the Eagles are playing. There's too many mouths to fill in that backfield. They're talking about a 4-person backfield, and their best goal line running back is their quarterback, right? So I'm just staying away from Penny because I have more faith in the other guys, and he's just not a good guy to start. I'd be interested in starting Madison because I think a lot of people
sitting.
Yes, yeah. Agreeing with Dutton and sitting Madison. But I'm open for your opinions.
I'm good with sitting Madison.
Okay, Madison it is.
I'll start with wide receiver. I'm going Hollywood Brown. You'll notice I wrote, who cares who they're playing? I don't know who their quarterback is. I legitimately don't know who. Do they know? Have they still have Orr on their depth chart too, I believe, right? They haven't named a starter. We are 12 hours. No, I'm sorry, almost less than 24 hours from the first kickoff of the season. The Cardinals haven't named a starting quarterback as of this airing.
They don't need one. It's fine. They're still going to be bad.
I'm starting Malcolm Brown this week, next week, week 3, all the way.
You're sitting these people.
Dutton.
I'm sitting. This is going to be a shock to our listeners, but I am sitting Devontae Adams this week. And the reason I'm sitting Devontae Adams is Jimmy G's his quarterback, and I really don't know what we're expecting from Jimmy G. And the last time I remember watching Jimmy G, he doesn't really throw the deep ball very well. So I'm sitting Devontae Adams. It might be crazy, but we'll see what happens.
Let me ask you this. Are you saying if you had him on your team, you would sit him? Or are you just saying on this show, you think he's going to be, for where he was drafted? Obviously, you got to start Devontae Adams in week 1, but I do kind of agree with you. He may struggle. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying that you are not getting the Devontae Adams you thought you were drafting this year.
Fair enough. And for all the struggles the Broncos had, their defense was pretty solid up until the last few weeks of the season when they just completely lost their team.
Right. And it's a home game, right? They are in Denver. So that's,
Fanduel Fee.
I am sitting DJ Moore this week. New offense. Justin Fields running the ball. The Packers last year quietly had a top 5 defense against the pass. I'm guessing that it should be about the same. But I'm going to sit DJ Moore this week against the Packers.
Okay. Who are we locking in on? I mean, it's hard for me to get off Malcolm Brown because that guy's someone that's.
I don't even know if he's going to play. He's got a hamstring injury.
Who do you want to go crazy and put Devontae Adams in there for week 1? I'm afraid to do that.
We'll do Malcolm. It's fine.
Okay.
Malcolm in the middle.
And who wants to start? Let's say Dunton. Dunton, go ahead and start us off.
Okay. The reason I'm sitting this
Malcolm?
Hollywood Brown. I was just being funny. We said Malcolm in the middle. Slow down, Fee. It's okay. I'm sitting Kyle Pitts this week. Why am I sitting Kyle Pitts this week? Blocker. He's not a good catcher because that's all the Falcons have showed us he can do is block. And now he's got Bijan Robinson to block for. So I'm sitting Kyle Pitts.
I think they need to figure out how to use Kyle Pitts this year, but I think obviously tight ends, we had this conversation every year. Tight ends stink. If you drafted Kyle Pitts, your backup is probably a lot worse. So you're probably starting him.
Right.
Have the option. I kind of agree with you. Wait and see if this is blocking Kyle Pitts or if this is first year Kyle Pitts. And I think you're
right.
I don't think you're crazy in that statement. Fee.
I'm sitting David Njoku. If you drafted him, he was probably a top 8 to a top 10 tight end. So you're probably trying to start him. I would sit him this week. They're playing the Bengals. Bengals last year, very good against the pass.
I'm going to sit, and we loved him last year. We called him Obi-Wan Kenobi. But Tennessee's tight end Chiggy Okonkwo. There's just been a lot of bad juju coming out of camp that he wasn't picking up blocks well, and they didn't know how much he was going to be on the field. I just didn't like what I was hearing. He was really fun to watch last year, and I think that's why a lot of people may start him. But I don't know if this is the right week because I think the Saints have one of those opportunistic defenses that we talk about. They're not very good. They don't have a lot of all pros, but they're always in the right spot. One of those defenses that I just don't think this is the right day to do it. Who do we want to lock in?
Pitts.
Wow.
Fiumano says Pitts. He was all over Pitts a couple of years ago.
All right. We'll put in Pitts. I don't know. Right. That's crazy, but I'll put in Pitts. So sits of the week are 3 and out. First sits of the week. At quarterback is Daniel Jones. At running back is Alexander Madison. At wide receiver is the Cardinals' Hollywood Brown catching balls from possibly Fiumano. And the tight end is Kyle Pitts. Ladies and gentlemen, that's your first show of the year. Your weekly reminder that this is Wednesday. Check those injury reports. Check those lines. Make sure they're the same as what we told you today. Gentlemen, before we go, anything you have to say?
No.
Good luck this week.
Good luck. Fantasy football week 1.
Yeah. There they are, the best colormen in fantasy football. I love having you guys here. Go win some money. Go win some championships, and we'll see you next week on 3 and Out.